Hello, everybody. I will be doing lesson 5 today, and I am doing it with my peer Yasmin. Yasmin, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, Martha, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, thank you. So handling incoming data. In lesson 4, we were introduced to the web server and showed us how we can create one with Node.js. Every time a user visits a URL that leads to the application, a request is made, and each request must be processed by the code we write. So in lesson 5, we're going to learn how to gather process some of the information in this request, and we should also build application routes, code logic to match request with appropriate responses. So reworking your server code. So in our code we have a server object that has a callback function, request and respond, which is run every time a request is made to the server. With our running server, if we visit localhost 3000 in our browser and refresh the page, that callback function is run once on every refresh. So we have 5.1, a simple server with a request event listener in main.js. So we have const for 3000. So port 3000 defined the port the server will listen on. So 3000 is commonly used in development, and then we have require HTTP, which loads nodes built-in HTTP module to create a server. And then we have require HTTP status codes, which loads module with readable HTTP status codes like 200 OK instead of just 200. And then we have HTTP create server, which will create the server object, and then which will be stored in the app. And then we have app on request. So app on request, this tells the server to listen for incoming request event. The request represents the request from the client, e.g., for example, a browser, and then a response represents the response that the server sends back. And then we have response.writeHead http status.ok. This will set the HTTP status code to 200 OK. And then the content type is set to text HTML, so the browser knows to expect a HTML response. And then we have let response message be equals to, this will show on the screen. And then response and response message. So the response message holds a simple HTML string, and then the response.end response message will send the message back to the client and will end the response. And then we have app.listen port. This will start the server on port 3000, and then console.log, the server has started and is listening on port. So this will output a message in the terminal confirming that the server is running. Then is that clear? Yes,
I have a
yes.
Yeah, I do have one question. So, the port is 3000, right, for this code. So that means that it will only load on localhost 3000, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if the server was a different status code, like the constant port was 5000, it will only load on localhost 5000, for example?
Yes, you are correct.
Thank you.
All right.
That's clear.
Okay. Thank you, Yasmin. And then we have 5.2. 5.2, analyzing request data. So routing is a way for your application to determine how to respond to a requesting client. Some routes are designed by matching the URL in the request object. That method is how you're going to build your routes in this lesson. We have logging request data in the main JS. So console.log request method, request URL, request headers. So for the console log request method, this will log the HTTP method used by the client. For example, get used to request data like visiting a web page, post used to send data to the server like submitting a form. And then we have console request URL. So this logs the URL path that was requested, slash the home page, slash about the about page, slash contact name Martha. This will include a query string. And then we have console log request headers. This will log the HTTP headers sent by the client like the browser. So headers contain metadata about the request, such as the type of browser, user agent, what kind of response it accepts, and if it's sending cookies or not. We then have 5.3, logging request data in main.js. Sorry. So we have constant get JSON string is equals to object return JSON dot stringify object null 2. So this is an arrow function named getJSONString, and it takes an object obj as input and it converts it to a pretty printed JSON string, and then it will return that string. So JSON stringify object null 2. This function turns a JavaScript object into a string in a JSON format. The argument obj is the object to convert, and then now we're not changing which keys to include. Pass null for default, and then 2, the number of spaces to use for the indentation, so it makes the string readable. So it will be nicely formatted because it will have the 2 spacing. So when we restart our server and we run main.js again and access localhost 8000, and our browser will notice in our terminal window information indicating that a GET request was made to the URL. Right, and then we have listing 5.4, handling posted request data in main.js. So app on request. So this starts listening to HTTP request event, request objects info from the client, and then a response object used to send the data back. And then we have let body is equals to, so if the request sends data like a post form, it counts in chunks, and then this stores each chunk in the body array. So this is an empty array. So when the request sends data, it will be stored in this array. And then we have request on data, body data. So when all the data has been received, it combines the chunks using buffer.concat and converts it into a readable string. Then it logs the full request to the body console. And then we have the console logs. So these lines use the getJSON string function to pre-print the HTTP method, get, post, and etc., the URL path requested, and request headers. And then we have response right head http status.ok. It will send the response header with status code 200 ok, and the content type text HTML, so that the browser will know that it expects an HTML. And then we have let response message be this, and then response and a response message. So app.listen port, it will start listening. It starts to save and listens on port 3000, and then it would log the confirmation message in the terminal. Then we have 5.5 simple server in main.js. So I'll just explain everything line by line. So we have, wait, that's the same thing actually. So let's just go to 5.6. Simple routing in a web server in main.js. We have constant route response map. So the purpose of this is that this object maps out specific routes URLs to specific HTML content. So if a client requests /info, the server sends back the info page as the response. So we have as per normal, constant port, HTTP status, the app, and then we have this one. So if root response map request.url, response and root response map. So here, if the requested URL, which is this one, exists in root response map, the server responds with the mapped HTML. And then if the URL is not found, it will default to welcome. And there we go. And as per normal, the server will start on port 3000 and it will log a message to confirm that it is running. And then we have listing 5.7, set timeout. So response and root response map request URL 2000, which will wrap a response with set timer to delete the response manually. So let us try running this. So we start with npm and then we're gonna run npm http status close save. My laptop is really slow. Sorry, Yasmin. I'm just waiting for it so that I can be able to run the.
No problem.
Yeah, you know my laptop is slow. But so far so good. You understood everything.
Ethically explained, yes. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, there we go. So the server has started and is listening on port 3000. Let's open localhost 3000. Okay, that's taking long. Okay, so we have our welcome, and then let's say /info. We have info page, and then if we say /about, we will have learn more about us, and then if we do /error, sorry, the page you're looking for is not here. Alright, thank you, Yasmin. I am done with lesson 5. I hope everything was clear.
It was all very clear, Martha. Thank you. You explained it very well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.